Please welcome Carlos Alcaraz.
At 23, Carlos Alcaraz has confirmed what everyone suspected during those carefully released training sessions. His comeback will begin at the US Open. The smile has returned, the racket is moving freely. Competitive tennis, though, is far less polite than a practice court. Since April, his injured wrist has kept him away while the season continued without permission. Rivals gained matches, rankings shifted, major trophies were decided. Now, Alcaraz is stepping directly back into a 5-set Grand Slam where every opponent will test the very area that forced him out. That decision explains more than his physical condition. It exposes the urgency behind his return and the private calculation his team had to make before approving New York. Subscribe as the comeback begins. Was returning at the US Open brave, risky, or both? The confirmation arrived on August 20th. Alcaraz announced that he would compete at the tournament running from August 30th through September 13th. That ended more than 4 months of waiting, guessing, and examining practice footage as if every forehand were a medical report. Tennis finally had an answer. Carlos was coming back. His absence began in Barcelona in April, when discomfort in his right wrist grew during competition. Alcaraz withdrew and returned home to begin treatment with his team. At first, the language around the injury remained careful. The priority was recovery. No return date was promised. That caution mattered because a wrist is not a spare part for a player whose game depends on violent acceleration, late changes of direction, and fearless racket speed. The consequences arrived quickly. Alcaraz missed Rome and then withdrew from Roland Garros, where he had been the defending champion. Wimbledon followed. Toronto passed without him. Cincinnati was supposed to mark his return, especially after he had won there the previous year, but that plan was abandoned too. His team gave the wrist more time. That extra delay fed the rumor, now confirmed. Training intensity increased. Footage showed him striking again. Holger Rune joined him for practice in Murcia, giving Alcaraz something a ball machine cannot provide: elite pace coming back from the other side. Each session suggested that New York was becoming the target, yet nobody responsible for his career wanted to announce it before the wrist survived the work. Then came the unusual reveal. Football transfer reporter Fabrizio Romano joined the announcement and delivered his famous "Here we go" treatment. Clearly, returning to a Grand Slam now requires the same ceremony as signing for Real Madrid. The style was playful, but the message was serious. Alcaraz and his team were ready to place his name in the draw. But here is the detail hidden beneath the cheerful announcement. Alcaraz did not prove his readiness in a warm-up tournament. His first official test will arrive inside the event he is trying to defend. That changes the entire discussion. Practice answers private questions. Competition creates public ones. During training, the workload is controlled. A session can stop, a drill can change, the pace can drop. At the US Open, an opponent has no reason to cooperate. If a rally stretches, he will stretch it. If the backhand looks uncomfortable, he will attack it. If Alcaraz protects one side, the next ball will go there again. Match fitness creates another problem. Alcaraz can run, lift, hit, and practice for hours. But tournament tension changes the body. The grip tightens at breakpoint. The serve needs extra speed at 5-all. A defensive slide becomes an emergency flick. Those reactions cannot be fully rehearsed because players make them before the brain has time to request permission. His timing will face the same examination. Alcaraz plays close to danger. He takes the ball early, changes pace without warning, and turns defense into attack with one explosive swing. When that timing is sharp, opponents feel as though the court has lost a few meters. When it is late, the spectacular forehand becomes an error, and the brave drop shot becomes a polite gift. 4 months away can make those margins feel even smaller. The first round will therefore matter more than its ranking suggests. A comfortable straight-set win would let him test the wrist without draining the body. A long opening battle would force his team to measure recovery overnight, not during a relaxed week at home. Grand Slam tennis offers a day between singles matches, but it also sends a fresh opponent every round. The draw now gains enormous importance. A qualifier with nothing to lose can swing freely. A powerful server can deny Alcaraz rhythm. A patient baseliner can make him hit one extra ball until the wrist and legs answer the same question repeatedly. Even an early lead does not guarantee a short afternoon, because best-of-5 tennis rewards stubbornness. New York has built entire night sessions from matches that looked finished after 2 sets. Still, reducing Alcaraz to a fragile comeback story would be foolish. He is a 7-time Grand Slam champion. Flushing Meadows is where he captured his first major in 2022 and became the youngest man to reach world number 1. He also returns as the defending champion. The stadium carries pressure, but it carries proof as well. Carlos already knows what winning there feels like. That memory can become an advantage. Players returning from injury often search for signs that their old level still exists. Alcaraz does not need to imagine himself lifting the New York trophy. He has done it. He knows the noise inside Arthur Ashe Stadium, the changing conditions after sunset, and the strange energy of a crowd that can adopt a player for one game and challenge him in the next. His game also contains tools that can shorten points if used with discipline. A strong first serve prevents immediate pressure. The drop shot pulls defensive opponents forward. Net attacks end rallies before they become physical debates. Variety allows him to win without turning every exchange into a 20-shot audition for the highlight reel. The challenge is choosing those tools because they are correct, not because he wants to escape a demanding rally. That distinction will reveal his confidence. A healthy Alcaraz attacks from belief. A worried player rushes from fear. Both versions can look aggressive on television, but the patterns are different. One constructs the point, the other tries to finish it before discomfort arrives. Opponents and coaches will study those choices from the opening games. The ripple effect extends beyond his own body. Every seeded player now faces a tougher route because a proven champion has returned to the bracket. Title forecasts must be rewritten. Practice plans must include his speed, touch, and sudden changes of tempo. Anyone hoping the injury had removed him from New York's equation has received an unpleasant update. Jannik Sinner remains central to that picture because every major involving Alcaraz now carries the shadow of their rivalry. Yet the field is larger than one matchup. Alexander Zverev, Novak Djokovic, and the rising hard-court threats will not treat Carlos as a ceremonial guest. Respect disappears quickly once the coin toss ends. Nobody gives a defending champion time to remember how competition works. Ranking pressure adds another layer. Missing major events costs points and allows rivals to build distance. But the US Open offers a huge opportunity to recover momentum. A deep run would protect more than a number beside his name. It would restore his place at the center of the season. An early exit would raise fresh questions about the timing of the return and the price of choosing a Grand Slam as the testing ground. Sponsors, tournament organizers, and broadcasters also understand his value. Alcaraz brings speed, personality, and the possibility of a match turning into theater without warning. His presence lifts the event. That commercial excitement, however, cannot decide whether his wrist holds. Marketing can design a comeback poster. It cannot return a serve at 125 miles per hour. And this is where the announcement stops answering questions. It confirms that Alcaraz will play, but it does not confirm how his wrist will respond after 3 hours of match pressure. There is no verified promise that he can move through 7 rounds without a reaction. There is no match evidence from Cincinnati because he skipped it. There is no recent 5-set sample because he missed Roland Garros and Wimbledon. The practice sessions are encouraging, but they remain practice sessions. Any honest assessment has to leave that space open. His workload will provide the first clues. Watch the serve speed late in sets. Notice whether he changes the backhand under pressure. Study how often he uses the slice, whether he avoids full extension on defense, and how freely he attacks returns. One isolated miss means little. A repeated pattern means far more. Recovery between rounds will matter just as much. The wrist often feels strong during the match and reacts the next morning. Swelling, stiffness, and fatigue are not visible from the upper deck. That is why his team's decisions after each round will carry weight. Practice length, treatment time, and any change to scheduling will offer evidence without requiring wild theories. The team also faces a difficult balance. Protecting Carlos too aggressively can leave him underprepared. Pushing him too hard can undo months of patient work. Coaches love control, while Grand Slams treat control as a cute suggestion. Rain changes schedules. Night matches finish late. Opponents refuse to follow the expected script. Recovery plans must bend without breaking. Alcaraz has already shown that he listens when his body sends a serious warning. In Barcelona, he stopped rather than forcing the issue. Later, he withdrew from tournaments that mattered deeply to him. Skipping Roland Garros and Wimbledon was not the choice of someone chasing attention. It was evidence that the long game still had a voice inside the room. That history makes the New York decision more credible. His camp delayed the original Cincinnati target instead of using competition as a hopeful experiment. Training loads rose gradually. A top player, Rune, helped test the level. Only after those stages did the public confirmation arrive. The process does not guarantee success, but it shows that the return was not selected by spinning a calendar and pointing at the loudest tournament. There is also a personal reason New York makes sense. The 2022 victory changed Alcaraz from a thrilling young player into a Grand Slam champion and world number one. Returning there connects recovery with one of his strongest memories. Athletes speak constantly about confidence, sometimes until the word loses all meaning. Familiar courts, familiar routines, and proven success can make it real again. Yet nostalgia cannot strike a forehand. The 2026 version of the tournament will not replay 2022 or the title run he produced last year. Different opponents will arrive. Conditions will shift. His body has changed through injury and rehabilitation. The crowd will welcome him like a returning hero, then demand 5 sets of entertainment as payment. The first priority must therefore be simple. Finish the opening match healthy. Winning beautifully is optional. Escaping without a physical setback is essential. If the movement looks free and the wrist remains stable, the tennis can grow round by round. Champions often use the first week to sharpen. Alcaraz has used that method before, although never after an absence this long. Next comes tactical discipline. He cannot spend the early rounds proving that every spectacular shot is still available. The scoreboard rewards points, not demonstrations. Serving efficiently, controlling return position, and choosing safe aggression would reduce unnecessary stress. A boring service hold will be the most beautiful sight his team sees all evening. Then comes emotional control. Alcaraz feeds on energy, but New York can turn excitement into impatience. One missed forehand can tempt him to hit the next one harder. One lost set can invite a dramatic response. After 4 months away, the desire to recover everything in 10 minutes will be powerful. His smartest move will be refusing that invitation. If he reaches the second week, the entire tone changes. At that point, the wrist will have survived real matches, the timing will have faced pressure, and opponents will stop viewing him mainly through the injury. He will become Carlos Alcaraz again, the champion capable of stealing a set with speed and a match with imagination. If he struggles early, restraint becomes vital. A comeback is not a courtroom verdict on his future. One poor tournament after 4 months away would not erase 7 majors or his place in the sport. It would show that recovery and competition operate on different clocks. Tennis fans are famously patient, provided patient means demanding answers before the changeover ends. The deeper meaning of this confirmation sits between those outcomes. Alcaraz has chosen ambition, but his team has wrapped that ambition in months of caution. He is not returning because every risk disappeared. Elite sport never offers that luxury. He is returning because the evidence gathered behind closed doors finally crossed the line from hopeful to acceptable. That threshold matters because champions are rarely judged by standards, especially when a calendar offers no gentle road back into competition. New York will now test that conclusion in public. Every round will supply information that training never supplied. Every long rally will measure trust. Every full-speed forehand will show whether instinct has returned. Most importantly, every recovery day will determine whether the comeback can survive its own momentum. No opponent needs to target an injury cruelly. Professional tennis already targets weakness by design. Players serve to uncomfortable positions, stretch movement patterns, and repeat successful plays until the other side finds an answer. That is not disrespect, it is the job. Alcaraz knows this, which makes his decision even more revealing. He did not choose a quiet stage. He chose the event where he first became a major champion, the tournament he is meant to defend, and a city that treats moderation as a scheduling error. The return is bold. The preparation appears careful. The gap between those two truths is where this story will live. By August 30th, speculation will end. The draw will identify the first test. Practice will give way to points that count. Alcaraz will stand behind the baseline, bounce the ball, and trust the wrist that has controlled his season since April. No announcement can help him then. If the wrist holds, the title race gains its most unpredictable force, and a 4-month absence becomes the opening chapter of another New York run. If the body resists, the comeback becomes a lesson in how little even champions can negotiate with recovery. Either way, Carlos Alcaraz has answered the first question. He is coming back. The US Open will answer the harder one. What version of him has returned? Drop Carlos in the comments and tell us whether he reaches the second week. If comeback stories and honest tennis breakdowns matter to you, subscribe. We cover every point that changes the season.